So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So in 5 years, I will hopefully be, I think most doctors probably think this, having a nice, stable job, Monday through Friday, or maybe even Monday through Thursday would be great, seeing patients and operating and, kind of just having time with family on the weekends and holidays and just kind of living life on a nice schedule, seeing patients, operating, and then spending time with family.
What advice do you have for anyone that might be interested in a job like yours?
The bottom line is it's a long haul. It's a lot of time. It's like you go up one step and then there's another bigger step that you look to climb next. So It's just hang in there. It can be done, but just hang in there.
Are there any things that people are actually surprised to learn about your work?
People are definitely surprised to learn about all the different training levels and training time that goes into getting this job. And then I think just the time commitment. I think that's really what surprises people. They don't realize that when they go to their doctor's appointments, how long their doctor is there each day and how much paperwork they do at home.
Now, were there any specific classes that either in high school, college, or med school, any of your education that you actually really enjoyed, or on the opposite side that you really hated?
Yeah, I think I really loved neuroscience classes in college. That's what I majored in. It's just, figuring out how the brain works and neurons and cells and just the mind. That was fascinating to me. So it just happened to be a science curriculum type major. Usually people that go into medicine have kind of that interest, but I hated math, absolutely hated it. Took the bare minimum courses just to be able to get into apply to med school. But even hating math, that's a science technically, and I still could do it. So I would say if you have a hate or a love for any one subject, it won't stop you from going into medicine.
So was there a strong possibility that you had to relocate for either med school or residency or to eventually find a permanent job?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question because the truth is you have to be willing to relocate even for medical school. It's so competitive to get in. You apply all across the country usually. You interview all sorts of schools, and then you get into maybe only maybe only a handful if you're lucky, and you decide based on that. And then after med school, you apply for residency, and it's a computer system. You make a rank list, and the computer system pops out and tells you where you're going to go for your residency based on some kind of algorithm it runs through. So you open an envelope on one of the last days of medical school at noon. Everyone in the country opens it at the same exact time, and you find out where you're going for your residency. So you could end up, in California, or you could end up in Florida, depending on where you interviewed at. And you have to be willing to be able to move all over the place to train for the most part, because you never really know where you're going to end up.
Wow. So when you're applying for residencies, you have to just apply to all over and then see which places give you an opportunity to do your residency there?
Yeah, you applied all over the place, like let's say all 100 programs in your field, you applied to all of them. Maybe 30 will give you an interview, so you go interview at as many as you can. And then you make a rank list and you submit that in a computer. And all of the programs make their rank list and submit those in a computer, and they're secret from one another. You're not supposed to know or talk. And then at 12 noon on one Friday in March, all the medical students that are graduating open their envelope at the same time in their medical school, and it's a big ceremony, and you find out where you're going.
Wow, that's crazy. It almost sounds like the military or something. That's insane. I had no idea it was like that.
Or like Harry Potter.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. I had no idea it was like that. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
wow.
It's a little bit stressful.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you definitely, I was thinking like, oh no, everybody needs doctors everywhere, so you can go wherever you want. But no, that's really not the case.
Now I'm thinking maybe once you're done with your residency and your fellowship and you're a board certified doctor, you could always return home, right?
Yeah, usually. Depending on what your specialty is, because some specialties, like there's a great need in this country for primary care doctors, OBGYN, pediatricians, and so you can get a job almost anywhere doing that kind of stuff, because there's so much of a need for doctors like that. But if you're a very highly specialized, you did ENT and now you're a neuro-otologist, that's a very, very specialized field. And so there may be less job options for you, and you may have to go to a city that has a job for you. But in general, yeah, most people are able to go home and finally start their life once they're done with their residency program.
Do you ever have to do any traveling for your job?
Yeah, people travel all the time. Some people choose to be what's called a locum doctor, and they have the same thing for nursing. And that basically means you work for a company that's contracted to cover areas that are very, very scarce on doctors or nurses in that case. And they'll pay you to go fly, to the middle of maybe Nebraska to work for a week at a time, and then you fly back home, and they pay for everything. And they usually pay quite a bit of money for you to do that because it's not exactly convenient. Some people do locums, that's what that's called, and they actually just do that all the time. Other people travel just in the sense that they go to like meetings for their field, or they go to training courses. But usually, the day-to-day, there's not a lot of travel. You just go to your office, your hospital, wherever you work. It's fairly confined on the day-to-day.
Do you ever have to go to like conferences for new technology in the medical field or anything?
Yeah, new technology, new medical devices, new medications. And then the conferences are just a great place for some of the brightest minds, in each field to get together and share data, share treatment, share kind of patient outcomes, just sharing anything in medicine that will help advance their field.
Do you mind telling us how much you make?
Yeah, so this question is a little bit of a tiered situation because when you're in medical school, you obviously make no money. You're paying, actually, a lot of debt money. When you're in training, your training is subsidized by the United States government, and that's how the residency programs are funded. And you usually make the ballpark because you make a little bit more each year in your training, but you make about $50,000 to $60,000 as a resident.
And I'm assuming that once you're done with your residency and you're board certified, there's a pretty decent jump in salary. Is that accurate?
Right. So once you finish your residency program, depending on your field, different specialties in different fields the pay jump is pretty big. If you Google online, that's probably pretty accurate. In terms of the absolute top, you're talking about surgical subspecialties like neurosurgery, spine surgery, very high risk, kind of high reward surgery, cosmetic plastic surgery.
Gotcha.
You can start looking at making about $1 million a year.
Wow, I had no idea it was that high.
Yeah, it just depends on how busy you are and what area you live in. Places like LA, New York City, the markets are very different. But I would say, that is abnormal. That is very abnormal. That's the absolute highest.
Gotcha, yeah.
The normal pay is probably about $200,000. That's probably about the average across everyone in medicine.
Was there anything that you did specifically in college or high school or med school that you would recommend other people do?
Yeah, I just told an early med student this the other night who called me the same thing. It's all about just experiences in life. Like, you don't want to just study all the time and just be a one-track person. The advice I gave her was just see everything, do everything, go to every interest club. If you're interested in finance, then try be a finance major in college. You can still be a doctor and have a finance major, but you should do always what interests you and see as much as you can. If you have an opportunity to travel to another country or study abroad, you should always take it because you can always apply to medical school and become a doctor, but missing out on those opportunities, you'll never get back.